Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be here with you. My name is Riva Lasonsky. I'm the CEO of GrowBiz Media and SmallBizDaily.com. I've been an entrepreneur for almost 9 years, and before that, I was like an editor for over 20 years at Entrepreneur Magazine. I'm really excited to bring you this panel today. They're dynamic, a lot of information about a topic that I don't know about you, but that I need a lot of help figuring out. So I want to quickly introduce the panel. We're going to dive into questions, and my questions, and then we're going to leave some time for your questions at the end. So in order, Barry Schwartz is the CEO of Rusty Brick, a web service firm specializing in customized technology that helps companies decrease costs and increase sales. He's also the founder of the Search Engine Roundtable and the news editor at Danny Sullivan's Search Engine Land. He's covered search for more than 12 years. George Freitag is the CEO strategist and local search evangelist for Moz Local, a location data management solution with 13,000 customers worldwide. He's a thought leader in the SEO space. He's most known for his work in local search, but has lent his expertise in mobile search, technical SEO, video analytics, and e-commerce to nationally recognized brands through consulting and training. Bill Slosky has more than 20 years of SEO experience and is a leading expert on Google's patents as related to SEO. He's the director of search marketing at Go Fish Digital and the editor of SEO by the Sea, because he lives in an amazing place. So. I'm jealous of where Bill lives. So we're going to jump right in. First, really simply, what is SEO? Any one of you, jump in.
Who wants to take it?
I guess I will.
Yeah.
So SEO is basically called search engine optimization. It's the process of making your website more visible and potentially rank better in Google, Bing, and the various search engines by implementing certain techniques to make your site more visible in search.
Are we good with that?
Yeah, I would just say that it is, it's getting traffic and getting conversions from organic search in general, through ranking, through increased visibility, through increased clicks, and increased interaction on your actual website after you've gotten that traffic.
It's a form of marketing where you show an awareness of the words that your clients, your customers use to look for products or services that you offer, and to attract them to your website, to your what you provide for them. If you understand your audience, you do better at SEO.
Okay, so from my perspective, which is an amateur, we have 2 websites, and the rules of SEO seem to be constantly changing. We're constantly hearing about Google did this to an algorithm, Google did that to an algorithm, and companies that ranked high one day plummet the next. Barry, I know you say that they don't change, so we'll start with you kind of explaining then, what does that mean? If they're not changing, why is Google constantly, here's Panda, here's this, here's that?
So the rules of SEO don't necessarily change. The basic rules is that Google or search engines want to rank the most relevant search results for the user. So if you do a query about flowers, Google wants to have the most relevant results at the top. What's changing is Google's attempt to make that search result as relevant as possible for the user. And you don't necessarily, the basic things about SEO are things like making sure your content can be found by Google, making sure you're writing in a way that makes it more useful for your user. So when somebody goes to the web page, they can convert. So little things like algorithm changes, which could be big for SEOs and webmasters, the rules aren't changing about that same premise about making sure Google provides the most relevant results for the user. How Google does that, Google tweaks over time. Either they use spam algorithms to combat people who are trying to manipulate the search results, but the basic rules haven't changed in a long, long time. They're called the Webmaster Guidelines. Bing has them, Google has them, and the basics around those Webmaster Guidelines have not changed.
And can anybody access those guidelines?
Yeah, just go to Google and type in Webmaster Guidelines, and you'll be able to find them pretty quickly. It's a short list. It's a 1-2 page list of the basic Webmaster Guidelines you have to follow, how to make your site visible to the search engines, and what not to do in terms of spamming the search engines.
Okay, so George and Bill, what do you think in terms of what appears to the public to be things that is one way one day, something else the next day, and how do we keep up with that as people who are trying to promote their businesses? How do we make sure that we're on top of what's going on?
Well, I'll answer that just because I've got an opportunity to be very pandering as far as who I use to keep up to date with SEO. And the top two places I go, and I would say this whether or not they're here, are Barry and Bill, just for keeping up to date with the latest changes in what Google's doing, the changes in SEO and the industry in general. If you're if you're not following them, you should, and you're interested in it. Barry is one of the best places to go for up-to-date knowledge about SEO and what's changing, the newest things that are happening with Google. And Bill looks at it from a different perspective of looking at the Google patents and seeing what potential changes are happening in the future. And so in order to just keep up to date with those, sort of day-to-day changes and a lot of the techniques and tactics, I go there. And then there's also some other sources online like Search Engine Journal and our own blog at Moz. But ultimately, I would just also just want to repeat what Barry said and earlier is that, as long as you keep the end goal of providing relevant search results, then you know that you're creating something that's useful to the users, that you're always going to be on the good side and be up to date with any sort of change that happens with Google.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to disagree with Barry and say that SEO does change. Two of the biggest areas of change, one of them is mobile search. People are searching on their phones. It's happening. There's no denying of that. Also, people want real-time news. From places like Twitter, or from Twitter integration with Google. And they are looking to that. Some of the places I keep track of to notice changes are the Google Developers blog, which has really up-to-date, timely news about things you can do to change your websites and have useful information on it. A lot of rich schema type information lately, but most of the Google blogs have lots of timely stuff. I get up every morning and go to Google News and Google and Google News to keep track of all the new things that are going on. And find some new stuff every morning.
So we know Google's the big player here, but we do have Bing and Yahoo and some other ones as well, some smaller ones. So do you start, if you're optimized for Google, does that automatically put you in good standing with Bing and Yahoo? Is it the same thing, or do you have to do a different process?
It's possible that they do similar things. The timing may be off a little bit. Google's been talking about using machine learning with something called RankBrain. It's possible that Microsoft started something like that using something called RankNet in 2007. So it might be a little bit ahead of Google when it comes to that. So the timing may be different.
A question that we haven't, but you brought up mobile, so I want to talk about that because that's one of my big soapbox issues is that not enough businesses, no matter what size they are, understand how consumers have just fled to mobile and are using it for search and buying and stuff like that. Is there a different way to make sure you're ranking? Is the organic rules different for mobile than for desktop?
Yeah, I mean, potentially. So there's two big announcements that happened over the past few years. A few years ago, Google announced the mobile-friendly algorithm boosts, which actually looks to make sure your website is mobile-friendly. Google said the vast majority of the Google searches these days, over 50%, but probably more than that, are done on mobile devices. More people are searching from their mobile phone than on their desktop. And I believe 20% of that is actually voice search related, so people talking to their phones and so forth, and that keeps going up and up. And Google looks to make sure that when a user clicks over from a search result on their mobile phone to the actual web page, that the web page is actually rendered in a very mobile-friendly way. The worst thing is having to pinch and zoom to see the content, not being able to click on the buttons and the links not being able to use the website because it's not a mobile-friendly website. And Google's giving a little ranking boost to websites that are actually mobile-friendly when you search on the mobile. So only the mobile version gets that ranking boost. Second thing Google announced was a week or so ago is that they're going to start crawling the web, and they're starting right now, but it's going to be rolled out over the next 3 months or so. Going to crawl the web from a mobile perspective. So that means instead of Google crawling the web from a desktop view, it's going to look at your website first from a mobile view. So if your content doesn't match on a page-by-page basis from page A on your desktop site to page B on your mobile site exactly, your rankings may change. And Google just announced this. You can actually read all about it on the Webmaster blog. Just Google Webmaster blog, and you'll pull up the most recent blog post about it. But mobile is definitely something that Google is very, very into and has been into for the past couple of years now, and it's just going to be more and more important going forward.
And I'll say, just kind of following the importance of mobile, and as a result of the prominence of mobile taking up over 50% of those searches that are going on out there. As a result, there's an increased importance of localized and personalized searches, and so those are becoming more and more prominent. Localized, personalized search results are the expected result of most searches. About a third of all searches going on mobile devices have some sort of local intent. So if your business has any sort of relevance in a local space, you're going to want to have some sort of content geared around local, just because it's relevant and it's what people expect. And the other part of that is the increase of voice search that Barry was talking about. But the result of that is more prominence on what is on the results that come up from those voice searches, and those are typically going to be something like those localized results if they are a local search, or if it's an informational search, then they're going to be the rich snippets, the knowledge graphs. And so sometimes if you search for a question online, it'll have an answer that shows up right on Google. That's also telling you what the answer to the voice search is probably going to be if someone were to do a search on that directly using Google.
Google does eat its own dog food. They do believe in the power of mobile search, and if you have Google Analytics, there's a new feature built into the mobile version of Google Analytics, which is an automated assistant. It uses machine learning to offer suggestions based on your analytics data, and it tells you about things you can do to improve your website, which is really useful. I've looked at client sites where it's offered more than 10 suggestions for each site, and they were worth looking at. Some of the suggestions are worth following. So if you use analytics, it's worth downloading the mobile version and looking at that automated assistant.
So I'm assuming that basically everybody here in the audience is representing one of three different kinds of businesses. We have local brick and mortar stores, which hopefully if you have one of those, you also have a website. Whether you're a store or a service provider, hopefully you have a website that's mobilely optimized. We might have online businesses that are national or global in scope. You go online, you basically are serving the world, or large corporations. So what are the differences between SEO that those different businesses need to be aware of?
You want me to start?
George?
Yeah, well, I'll attack local, and then maybe we can go around do around. But again, local is a third of all mobile searches, and so it's one of the most growing verticals within search. It's growing about 50% faster than any other vertical according to Google. And the big differentiator for local is that so much is dependent on those local pack results. And so if you do a search, on your phone, there's those 3 results for a physical business that that's going to show up in your area, and that gets pretty much at least half of the clicks. On desktop, it gets about half of those clicks. On mobile, it's probably more. But that's half of those clicks just going to those 3 results. And so that becomes very, very important if you've got a brick and mortar, is focusing on that local pack, just because that's so much of the traffic. And it's sort of and local SEO is sort of its own vertical, where its own strategy, where the goal is to, where what you need to do is make sure that your business information is accurately represented on as many prominent sources out there. Moz Local is one of the solutions that sort of addresses that, but what Google does is that it looks at the amount of times a specific business is mentioned elsewhere online, on directories, on phone book sites, on data sources, on places like Yelp, and it uses that to determine how trustworthy and how much confidence it has in those local pack results and whether or not to show the business. And so that becomes very, very important for local.
So is that, you mentioned make sure you're listed on all the directories. Can a business do that themselves, or if they have an SEO person in-house, or can somebody do it without having an SEO person in-house, or is that something you need to outsource to a service? And I mean, if you said to me, make sure you're listed on all the directories, I don't know what the directories are. How would I even do that?
Like a lot of things in SEO, it's stuff. They're all things you could technically do by yourself. If you've got a lot of time and you know where to go, you can absolutely just look for different directory sources, look for Yelp, look for all the phone books, look for all those review sites, and manually make sure that your business is found on them. But there's also automated services. One of them is Moz Local, that where I come from, but there are other solutions out there. And so what we do is that we push information to all those sources for our customers, so that the business information is consistent in as many places that Google looks at.
So going back to the question about large businesses versus smaller businesses, there's different challenges. So the basic core of SEO on the high level, I think, is basically content and links.
Yes.
What your content is basically what you have on your site, how many pages, what they're written about. And links is who's vouching for you, who's linking to your website from third-party websites. So if you're getting links from the New York Times or industry websites, that's a good thing for your website. And if you have content that's relevant to your user related to that, it all helps. The challenge for large businesses like Microsoft.com, Yahoo.com, Apple.com is not getting links. Apple announces anything, billions of people are writing about it. Just this morning, they announced they're selling a book about their history of all their devices and all their computers, a coffee table book, for $300. And the amount of stories covering this book that they want people to buy for $300 was insane. It was just insane. So Apple getting links is not a problem. Apple has tons of links. What they have to worry about is more about their content and making sure their thousands and thousands and thousands of pages are built in a way that the search crawler could crawl through it and understand what those pages are about. Canonical issues, href lang issues like language issues, international issues, duplicate content issues, and so forth. Whereas a small business, they're more able to actually control what content they have on their website, because they're writing about it and they know the topic, they're an expert, and they have more free time and more knowledgeable to write about it on their website, and they're able to see the whole picture of the website. But they have a hard time getting the word out about their website by getting links to their website. So those are the two core challenges, links versus content. Big businesses have lots of links, harder for them to maintain their content. Smaller businesses have a hard time getting links, but probably an easier and faster time about building content.
So is there a formula for, content? We've been hearing for a couple of years now, content is king, content is king. Is there a formula for, you have to post new content twice a week, 3 times a week, that makes Google, the spiders, happier? Like they'll come by and maybe index more often? Or I've heard off the record that it's 3 times a week.
That's wrong.
Well, that's good. So
there is no formula. I mean, there's a patent probably out there or something, but
there are a few different patents that talk about freshness as a ranking factor, and it's something that plays prominently in news type results. But if you're talking about something like the Declaration of Independence, not much new things happen to that. If you search for it, older results tend to rank well. If you talk about something like Justin Bieber, new results probably rank better than old results.
Right. Like personally, I would probably write in one day about 10 different stories just about Google in one day. So there's a lot to cover about Google. When it comes to, like you say, old topics, there's not that much. There's no specific number, and people always get tied up about specific numbers with SEO. And it's not about that. It's more about making sure you solve the problems, the questions that your customers are asking by writing content that answers those questions, and making sure you have a page of content for each question somebody might ask you.
So one of the things that I know that people do, and it could be wrong that they're doing it, but that I know that a lot of businesses do this, is they kind of tune into pop culture. And if something is trending, like now, let's say Justin Bieber does something really weird today, and everybody, which might be like an ordinary day, but so everybody's talking about Justin. A lot of places they'll write a blog that has, on an auto parts store or something, somehow to get his name in because they think that helps. Does that?
It's funny because I used to do this all the time back like 15 years ago when Google had a doodle, like the Google Doodles, the logos that were special, and you clicked on it, it took you to a search query. So I used to always write about the Google Doodle, what it's targeting, so whatever name it's targeting. And I used to get crazy traffic to my website because no other publisher thought about, this is driving traffic. But it really led to really low quality traffic. People were clicking, looking at the article, making a comment about how they hate that person or love that person. And it really led to irrelevant traffic to my website. I have a website talking about SEO and Google, and I'm writing about a doodle about some scientist or something. So if you have an auto blog and you're writing about Justin Bieber, it's irrelevant traffic unless for some reason he had to change his tire or something on his car. So if it's relevant, you can write about it, but if not, it's really going to waste your bandwidth, and it's going to drive traffic that's going to die out. It's not so relevant. So, and probably the chances of you ranking in the top result with the hundreds of other articles that are written about that topic is very slim.
And for many industries, there are topics that trend that maybe are applicable to those industries. Solve those problems rather than whether or not Justin Bieber is touring a certain place or a certain scientist is linked to in Google Doodle. You're better off.
So Bill, in the green room, you said something about businesses need to write about what they know, what they're, to be really relevant to the customer.
Business owners are subject matter experts in the industry they're in. That's why they're in that business. It's what they enjoy. Help people with those subjects. Help them understand them. Explain things that they might not know. New problems, new solutions. Help solve the problems. Help answer the questions. It'll help you do business.
Okay, so you guys are inside experts, and I'm assuming, like all inside experts, you have some tips and tricks of the trade that none of us are aware of. So if you could just share a few, maybe some websites or some things you need to be really aware of, some shortcuts, anything that that would help people in the audience be more efficient in their SEO.
Should we talk about cloaking and link buying?
In English, too.
No. I mean, there are tricks. The tricks don't always last. If you try to do something that's going to manipulate the search results and you found the trick that will get you to the top result really quickly, and you do that, you tell your friend, they tell their friends, eventually Google finds out, and your website's gone. So I wouldn't play tricks or try to manipulate the search results for a brand that you want to keep for the next 5, 10, 20, 100 years. You don't want to go ahead and penalize your website, because getting out of a penalty, like many people have tried to do, you get hit by a penguin penalty or some certain penguin algorithms, it could be painful and you can never recover ever. And I've seen so many businesses over the course of 15 plus years go ahead and literally have to shut their shop, fire their employees because they went ahead and pushed that a little bit too far, and Google penalized them and they lost everything. So I mean, if you guys want to share specific tactics, you can, but.
Well, I mean, I would say, we talk, penalties are a big thing that happens. They are very prominent throughout search, and they're becoming more and more prominent, more frequent. But they happen for a reason. And so if you go back to, I think, the very first thing we talked about in the very first question that Barry answered, about, and make sure that when you are creating content for your website, when you're promoting your website, it passes just a general sniff test. Like this is something that I'm answering a legitimate question that someone wants to know. And I'm outreaching to a person and asking them for a link because I think it would be useful to them. I'm not doing it just for the sake of getting more links. I'm not doing anything for the sake of just SEO. If there's another business goal that it addresses, if you're building a connection, you are providing an answer to someone who is asking a specific question, then that stuff is safe. It's pretty safe. With rare exception, you're going to be totally fine, and you don't have to worry about that element of the penalties, which can be very serious. And so my tactic would just be to approach SEO from that perspective. In its core, what you're doing is you are answering questions or just general thoughts that people are having online. Things they're either asking their phone, through voice, they're doing a search on their computer or something, and they're looking for a piece of information, or they're looking for the answer to a specific question. And if you take your product or your business and just attempt to find all the relevant questions, all the things people in your industry are asking, and try to answer those questions the best you can, and then tell other people about how good the answer you gave is, that's going to be evergreen SEO strategy that will always help you moving forward, despite what Google does.
Google is not against businesses doing SEO marketing on their websites. They even have a starter's guide to SEO. And if you noticed from about 2011 on, they added something in search results called knowledge panels, which feature businesses, entities of different types. And they can impress potential clients by showing something about your business. I like the fact that if you get Google reviews and there are positive reviews, they may show snippets from those in those knowledge panels and links to reviews on other sites on the web. And your business hours, and they're using structured data that might be on your website, that you might place on your website to help populate those. And if you get a listing and verify your business in Google My Business, that can help with what's contained in those knowledge panels too, including links to your social profiles. So making the effort to make those things show up is worth the time. And Google's happy to show that stuff. And if something's wrong with them, they often give you a chance to edit those, and they respond quickly when you have problems.
Right. There's a lot of different technical SEO things you could do, and those things are constantly being improved. So recently there's AMP, Accelerated Mobile Pages, where if you want to make your website really fast, you can make a version of it called AMP, Accelerated Mobile Pages. Google's pushing it big time. They want to rank that stuff pretty well. It's mobile friendly, it's fast, and there is a ranking boost for being mobile friendly and for being really fast. There's structured data, like Bill talked about, and structured data goes across reviews, pricing, local, and all this other stuff, events. There is hreflang, so if you have an international site, you have different websites for different countries with languages, implement hreflang. That will help a lot for Google to understand your website. There's ways of optimizing for what's called feature snippets. So if you're doing voice queries, which we said is growing and growing drastically, Google just came out with Google Assistant within the Pixel device, as well as with this Google Home device, which is a competitor for Alexa and the Echo. And if you do a voice query and say, ask some very long tail query, Google's going to respond saying, X and X, this website, whatever website it is, says this is the answer. So you have to think about, like Bill was saying before, how people are searching, how search is changing. So from desktop to mobile to voice to somebody asking a question in their kitchen to predictive search, to Google telling you things before you actually search for it, and how to get your content in that space. That's really the future of search, thinking about that, how people are going to search in the future and how things are going to change.
So, Bill, earlier you said SEO is marketing, which it is, and I think that's something that often gets overlooked. And I think, we talked again off stage about business plans, but what about marketing plans? How do you think SEO needs, does there need to be a new SEO plan instituted once a year? Does it need to be looked at? How often? Should it be separate from a marketing plan? Should it be put into an overall marketing plan? How do people get a grip on what they should be doing?
I worked for a large client, and they sell insurance, and they had TV commercials, a lot of them, where they featured cavemen and geckos, and they were ranking well for caveman insurance and gecko insurance. They wanted to rank well for car insurance. So they need help with their SEO. We help them integrate that thinking into future commercials and the web.
So how often should businesses take a look at how formal should an SEO plan be, and how often should businesses take a look at that plan? Well, how often does it need to be updated?
Your SEO is how you present yourself on the web. It's a large audience. It's something you should be thinking about all the time and trying to improve upon.
If you don't have time, if you subscribe to Google Search Console and Bing Webmaster Tools, they will send you important alerts to your email telling you, hey, you have this problem. And they'll notify you if they can't access content, if you have malware on your site, and you can actually go in there and quickly see if your rankings are going up and down. So if you can't hire an SEO company, it's a great little snapshot. It's a free tool, and it lets you quickly see what's going on with your website in terms of your SEO.
Okay, so you mentioned the word tool. Let's get on to some tools that you think people should be using. You mentioned a few, Barry. Are there some others that the people in the audience here can, go back to their companies or their jobs Thursday and say, okay, here's some things we need to start looking at immediately?
Moz. Outside of that, there's tons of tools. So Moz is a great tool set. It's one of the first big tool sets we've seen in the industry. There's some older ones as well. But href Langs for looking at your links, Majestic, link research tools, Google Search Console, SEM Rush, Search Metrics. I'm just keeping a list so they could pay me after the event. There's tons. You guys have. I'm not an SEO.
One of my favorites is the Knowledge Graph Search API Explorer. You can look up the name of your business and see what Google might think of your business in their Knowledge Graph. So I searched for Darth Vader, and they showed a bunch of results. Number 5 or so was Dick Cheney. I guess that was his nickname at some point.
I would say just for tools, there's lots of categories, but there's 3 big categories. And so you've got keyword research tools. And so basically these are like SEM Rush and Moz also, and some other ones that Barry mentioned. Those are any tool that's going to help you figure out what terms people are using to find your products, what the most popular phrases and the most popular questions that are out there. So you're going to want a tool like that to help guide your content. There's link research tools like hrefs, and then we've also got another one of those, which are going to help you understand the types of sites that are linking to each other, what types of sites are linking to you, what the sites that are linking to your competitors. And the last one is a crawler, which is what's going to help you, is the way that you're going to understand how Google understands your website. And it's really, really important. There's Moz has some features around that, but there's also Screaming Frog and Deep Crawl. And what those are going to do is you just point it. It's just a robot. You point it at your website, and it tries to find everything. And if it can't find something, if it's not finding something you think it should be finding, then Google can't either, and that can be a big eye opener. And so that's something that's really, when people talk about technical SEO, that's what that focuses on. Is that one of the problems with that SEO solves is that sometimes Google can't find. You got a great answer on your website, but Google can't find it, and using a crawler and some of these other tools is a way to make sure that if you do have a great piece of content, Google's actually finding it and actually understanding it, and then ideally it's also mobile friendly and fast, and it solves all these criteria, which is going to make Google be sure to show it prominently in the search results.
When I do SEO on a website, I often start by doing a crawl with Screaming Frog, and I import that into Excel and create a content inventory of a website, which shows me all the titles and meta tags and headings, and I can get a good sense of what works well, what works poorly on the website by looking at that content inventory.
Yeah.
So, again, we're acknowledging the fact that we have many different types of people here representing different kinds of businesses. Are there things that you should look for as to bringing an SEO person in-house, specifically for SEO, leaving it to just the marketing department, outsourcing it? Like, how do you know when you need extra help or to import help? How do you know you're not doing it right, I guess?
What's the story? What's the narrative associated with your business? How are you showing people it? How are you explaining it to them? How are you acquiring new customers? How's your website supposed to work? Those are part of the same question. How do you market yourself? Is it something you do all the time? If you want new customers, you should.
I guess in other industries there are markers, like, you know, for the HR industry, for instance, they say if you have 50 employees, you need an HR person. For every 20 employees, you need another one. So are there markers for SEO? Like, how do you know what outside, inside, specialty personnel inside?
I knew somebody who ran a dating site. He was the only employee. He had millions of customers. He needed more, one or two or 50 marketers per employee.
There's really no number. It's really about what your employees or you are interested in it. And if you have the time for it, you know, that's great. You could do it yourself. It's not, SEO is something that anybody could do, assuming you have the time and you're able to learn about it. What I always like to recommend is if you're a certain size company, I always love for somebody to hire an in-house SEO, because that in-house SEO could be passionate about the topic, understand your business better than anybody else, because that's all they're devoted to, but also hire an SEO company to do training, to oversee them, and to help them through that process and do some auditing to guide that in-house SEO if possible. But again, it really depends on the business, what you guys have time for, how much patience you have to deal with all these Google algorithm changes, because the rules are never changing.
I mean, I would say just make sure that you've got your key business goals, your the true business goals that are related to your business, and you understand those, and let that define how you're staffing. You know, if you know you are the type of business that's going to want to produce a certain amount of content, then clearly you're going to need to hire some writers. If you're going to rely on social, if your goal is to get some traffic from there, you're going to need to hire someone in that vertical. And then, of course, what your goals are with search is going to help guide you in whether or not you want to hire in-house, do an agency, or both, and whatever staffing concerns. But really, it starts with defining those business goals and then working backwards from there.
Okay, great. So I know we started a little late, so we're gonna open it up to questions now. I think there are there? Yes, there are microphones on either side of the room. So please come up, take advantage of the expertise here.
Can you give us some insight on video and how it relates to SEO, some key points?
Who wants to talk about it? I mean, video is content, and so it's another piece of content that you want to put out there. So if it is relevant to your audience and it's something that's useful, then that's the way to approach it.
We had a customer who's a jeweler, and we found a guy who has a hydraulic press, and he was looking for stuff to crush. So our jeweler donated a diamond to him, a 1.2 carat diamond, and he demonstrated that you can crush a diamond with a hydraulic press. He got 9 million people watching the video on YouTube and mentioning our jeweler client. We thought that was worth crushing a diamond over.
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you guys for your expertise. I just wanted to know, as far as website optimization, would you say HTML is better or just as good than PHP or WordPress? Like, which code is better for optimization?
So it all, WordPress, PHP, it all generates HTML files.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter. WordPress typically is very easy for new businesses to start with to make a very search engine friendly website. WordPress has all the built-in stuff. Most CMSs these days probably do, but WordPress has all these plugins and stuff that you have to be careful with. But WordPress is a very easy way to get started, I would think, for any business.
I've been suggesting to business owners who are considering blogging and using a WordPress site to start a blog on a topic that they enjoy as practice, to learn how to use WordPress before they start doing mission critical, business critical type things with it. Because having some experience with it is really helpful.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Steve?
Hi. How do you see social media impacting search results?
That's a fun topic.
Okay, so George mentioned that I look at patents. So one I looked at last week says that Google might look at topics you write about and communities you join in Google Plus and personalize your search results based upon how you interact with things in Google Plus. So yes, social media can influence what you see in search results.
But Google Plus is dead.
Right. It keeps on dying.
I mean, the official word from Google is that Facebook, Twitter, those types of things do not have a direct influence on the rankings and the search results, although personalization based on who your friends are may influence how your personalized results look like. So that's, I think, the official Google stance. And then the links are no followed, so it's a complicated question. Depends who you ask.
It's also possible that Google may crawl pages on the web that it uses social media to find links to. So it may influence what gets crawled, what gets found, that maybe wasn't on the radar before.
Thanks again for coming. Quick question on the future of search. So you said the future of search is going towards like voice. What steps, I guess, could you take today to really, I guess, take advantage of that to ensure that your content that you're creating adheres to the future of search?
So the cool thing about that is that Google's kind of telling you what types of answers it's giving you through those rich snippets. So when you type in a question to Google and that answer pops up, that's also the same source it's going to use for voice search. And so if you look, so a really tactical thing that you can do right now is just look for any sort of opportunity where those little answer boxes are showing up in any topic relevant to you, and rewriting your content so that it targets that. So if you know, I can never think of a hypothetical question like on the spot, but
I told you, Eiffel Tower.
yeah,
No, if you Google what is SEO,
yeah, and see what's showing up for there. If you're on the first page but ranking number 7, if you rewrite your answer to answer that better than the existing answer box, then you can overtake that without ranking higher. You can rank at 7 and still be the answer in that answer box, and then that makes you the answer for all the voice searches that Google powers. And so just really, if you want to target any sort of voice search, just make sure that the content you're creating is formatted in a way that would provide a really good answer to a voice question.
and test it out. Go on your phone and just try Google voice searches.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Go ahead.
Thank you for coming today. My question is, can you expand a little bit on Wix or Square, those sites that we're using to build our websites, and the widgets or apps that are involved in how they're affecting our SEOs? What should we be looking for?
I mean, no platform is inherently better than others. There are ways, you want to make sure that your website's clean and it can be crawled, and generally most of them, there are some bad ones out there, but generally most of them do that. Wix and Square are good for getting a business started up there. They're not that customizable, and so if you are really going to expand, you're going to meet some roadblocks with both of those. Plus, Wix had some really specific problems for a while getting indexed, but it seems to have
Yeah, I think
no problem now.
I think they recently, Wix has had several issues over the course of several years.
But they're also big enough that when they have indexation problems, they just talk to Google, and then Google helps them get indexed.
Kind of, but yeah.
But
Okay. Sorry, can I follow up on that real
Yeah.
quick?
Sure.
Is it worth going into the actual HTML of the website if you're using something like that? Or you need to really outsource it and go to somebody like one of you to help us with that?
If you know HTML, it's always good to take a look to understand what's going on.
Thank you.
Oh, this side.
Hi, thank you for being here. It's kind of similar to a question already that got asked. If you want to create content for your website, is it better to just create it on your actual website on a blog style form, or to integrate WordPress to your website? And would it make a difference?
Doesn't matter.
yeah, whatever gets the content on your website is the best solution.
And should you use keywords, obviously, like at the end of a content, or?
Use keywords to guide what you write, but don't use it as a checklist to mention a certain topic over the time. So keywords are useful. You know, you can look at the keyword, you can see how popular it is, how many folks are searching for it every single month. But that doesn't mean use that word over and over and over again. It just means this is a topic. Think of it as a keyword as a topic, and this is clear. You know, so if the topic is SEO, then clearly lots of people are searching about it, so write an article that broadly matches and broadly targets those, and there's some specific.
Some words have more than one meaning.
Yeah.
Like a horse is one thing to an equestrian, something else to a gymnast, a third thing to a carpenter. Make sure you explain what the intricacies are, what the context is of what you're writing about, so that it comes across. Include stuff on your page of content that makes it clear what it is specifically you're writing about. You'll get better results.
Great, thank you.
Okay, cool. Go ahead.
Thinking about shopping carts and e-commerce platforms, which ones do you guys like the best, and which ones would you advise we avoid at all costs?
I mean, they're all getting okay now. They had some problems.
Yeah, by now, most of the popular ones should be pretty good.
Yeah.
I haven't heard complaints about any major shopping platform in a long time. So
Yeah.
I would just do some searches, product name, like shopping cart name, and SEO, and see what comes up. And if you see complaints, stay away from it. But I haven't heard, do you ever do SEO on
Like
anything?
Xcart, Magento, Shopify.
I think those are all pretty
Yep.
solid.
Go ahead.
Hi, thanks for all the info today. My question is, I seem to get like a cyclical deal where I'll get some Google love or whatever you want to call it, where all of a sudden I'll get shown a lot and sell a lot of tools and stuff, and then I'll disappear for a while. And it seems to be kind of location based. You know, all of a sudden I'll be hitting in Las Vegas and I'll sell tools to a bunch of people in Las Vegas, and then it'll fizzle out, and then it'll be Michigan the next time. And I'm not really targeting those areas. Is there any advice on?
What kind of tools are you using to track metrics? Are you doing rank tracking and looking at your site traffic?
I'm doing a little bit of that, not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
just
I
basic
think anybody
analytics.
here would have to see the analytics to go through
Okay,
it.
yeah.
So you could definitely hire an SEO or somebody to audit the site and see what's going on. So it could be 1,000 things, really.
Yeah, okay. Is there any advice, like, just to help me kind of stabilize
You could always
it
go
out?
to the Google forums or any of these online forums and ask there. And they
Okay.
can dig into it, but generically, you can't just give a blanket statement and say, this is
Yeah,
what it is.
no.
I mean, I cover this stuff all the time, and people
Yeah.
complain about this. So it could literally be 1,000 things.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay, and our last question.
Hey, thanks, guys. I follow all of you guys online on your blogs and appreciate the contribution to help us understand the madness out there in search. My question's all around reputation management. So a lot of us will invest a lot of time into getting quality reviews, even from third-party sites, from Trustpilot, Yelp, even Google reviews, Facebook reviews. You see a lot of negative reviews pop up and escalate a lot quicker, even though quantity or quality of good reviews might outrank it from Ripoff Reporter, even BBB. How does a brand combat those negative sites, and have you seen any trends that the algorithms would indicate that those negative review sites hold a little bit higher weight than traditional.
There was an update actually recently, not recently, about a year or two ago, specifically targeting these reviews, negative review sites that are going above and beyond, kind of pushing them back a little bit. But I think people in reputation, you do reputation management?
Yeah.
So you want to tell you some strategies, I guess? Or you could just pay them later. And
So sometimes some businesses have to take a look at the practices they're following and make some changes to them. It's sometimes the best solution for a lot of people. If you can respond in a positive way, we're sorry that you experienced this, we'll contact you and try to resolve your problem. Get in touch with us at this address, so on. That may be another way of making negative reviews end up being edited by the person who wrote them and into a much more positive format. And we've seen success with that when we do reputation management, where people do contact people who wrote something negative. The filters on places like Yelp, sometimes if positive reviews are written by people who don't have many friends or haven't been upvoted as helpful, sometimes those get filtered out. And sometimes getting more friends to them or getting more helpful votes on their answers can help drag those reviews out of filters.
The challenge, I mean, one of the biggest, I'll be brief, with negative reviews is that from Google's perspective and the user's perspective, they're good. I mean, they're what Google wants to surface because that's typically what customers are looking for. They are interested in the Google reviews, so in negative reviews. So typically negative reviews are just very relevant. And so it's frustrating from a brand and a business perspective. But yeah, so there's lots of tactical steps you can take and just really putting more emphasis on customer service. The good thing about negative reviews is that people expect them. And so while people do, I don't remember the numbers, while people do take into account reviews in any sort of buying decision, people generally understand that a series of positive reviews will outweigh a negative review because people do expect there to be a negative review from a couple angry customers out there. So the audience is pretty forgiving, but just as removing them, there's not really a lot you can do since they're typically very relevant.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Barry, George, and Bill. Thank you. Have a great lunch and great rest of the conference.